You walk into a movie theater. The popcorn stand shows three sizes: small for $6, medium for $8, large for $10. You didn't originally want medium. You were going to go small to save money. But suddenly it looks perfect. Not too cheap, not too expensive. Just right. And here's the weird part. Scientists know exactly why you'll pick it, and it has absolutely nothing to do with your actual preferences or your budget. What you're experiencing is called the decoy effect, a psychological trap so powerful that even knowing about it won't fully protect you. Companies worldwide spend millions exploiting this exact bias in your brain to make you spend more money. And most people have no idea it's happening. This isn't about the popcorn. This is about understanding the invisible forces that control your choices. Because once you see this trap, you'll notice it everywhere. In your phone purchases, your subscriptions, your gym memberships, your dating apps, even in your career decisions. In the next 20 minutes, we're going to reverse engineer exactly how this works, why your brain falls for it, and most importantly, how to protect yourself. Because understanding how you think is the first step to thinking for yourself. Let's dive in. What is the decoy effect? The decoy effect is a cognitive bias where people change their preference for an option when a third, inferior alternative is introduced. Let me break this down carefully because the mechanism is fascinating and it reveals something crucial about how your brain actually works. Without a decoy, choice is straightforward. You compare two things, option A and option B. Your brain asks, do I prefer cheaper with okay features or expensive with great features? It's a direct trade-off. You evaluate both options against your actual needs and budget, and you make a choice. But now add option C, a third option that's objectively worse than both A and B, or at least clearly worse than one of them. Something strange happens. Your brain doesn't just ignore the inferior option. Instead, it shifts strategy entirely. Instead of asking, which one do I actually want? Your brain starts asking, which one is relatively better than the others? And suddenly, the presence of an inferior option makes one of the original choices look better by comparison. It's called the decoy effect because the third option functions exactly like a decoy in hunting. A decoy duck doesn't attract other ducks by being what they actually want. It attracts them by existing and by being present. It influences behavior. The decoy isn't meant to be chosen. It's meant to change how you perceive the other. The neuroscience. Now, let's talk about why your brain falls for this. There are three core reasons, and understanding each one is the key to protecting yourself. First, your brain is lazy. This is an insult. It's just neurological fact. Your brain consumes about 20% of your body's energy, even though it's only 2% of your body weight. It's incredibly expensive to run, so your brain evolved to take shortcuts. Absolute comparison, evaluating each option independently against your needs and values, takes enormous cognitive effort. Your brain has to hold multiple criteria in mind, weigh them against each other, and reach a nuanced conclusion. That's exhausting. Relative comparison is much easier. You just rank things. Option A is better than B. B is better than C. Done. When a decoy appears, your brain takes a shortcut. Instead of asking, what do I actually need? It asks, which one is relatively best? And the decoy makes relative comparison incredibly easy because it's usually clearly worse than at least one option. Your brain says, oh, well, that option is terrible compared to this one, so this one must be premium. The lazy brain wins, and you've been manipulated without knowing it. Second reason, anchoring. An anchor is a reference point that influences your judgment. The decoy sets a new anchor point. Without it, you think $100 is expensive. But if the decoy costs $125, suddenly $100 seems affordable. Your brain recalibrates around this new anchor. Jewelry stores use this perfectly. They show you the most expensive item first. Not because they expect you to buy it, but because it anchors you to a higher value. Then the mid-range item seems like a bargain. You're not making a rational decision based on the item's actual value. You're making a decision based on an illusion of value created by the anchor. The actual value hasn't changed. Your perception of value has been shifted by a reference point. Third reason, loss aversion. Loss aversion is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. Research from decades of behavioral economics proves it. Losing $100 hurts roughly twice as much as gaining $100 feels good. You're not wired equally for pleasure and pain. You're biased toward pain avoidance. So when a decoy appears that's clearly worse, your brain screams. If you pick the cheaper option, you're losing access to premium features. Suddenly, you're not excited about the better option. You're running away from the pain of settling. You're upgrading not because you want more, but because you're afraid of missing out. These three forces, cognitive laziness, anchoring, and loss aversion, combined make you vulnerable to the decoy effect. And the scariest part? Even when you know about these biases, they still work. Your conscious mind can understand the mechanism, but your automatic mind still falls for it. That's the real power of this bias. Real-world examples. Let's look at real examples, because once you see the pattern, you'll notice it everywhere and you won't be able to unsee it. First, the famous Economist magazine experiment. The Economist ran a now legendary study on subscription pricing. They offered 3 tiers: web only at $59, print only at $125, and print plus web at $125. Notice what they did? The print-only option is logically useless. Why would anyone pay $125 for only print when they can get print and web for the same price? So you'd think almost nobody would choose it. And you'd be right. Almost nobody did. But here's what's fascinating. When they removed the print-only decoy and offered just 2 options, web only at $59 and print plus web at $125, the preference flipped dramatically. With the decoy, 84% chose the cheapest option, and only 16% chose a premium. Without the decoy, 68% chose web only, and 32% chose a premium. The decoy actually doubled the premium tier's conversion rate. They didn't change the product. They didn't change the prices. They just removed the inferior third option. And the middle option, which didn't even exist in their head before, became twice as valuable. This is the decoy effect in its purest form. Second example, iPhone pricing. When Apple releases new iPhones, they use this pattern religiously. iPhone 13 at $799, iPhone 14 at $899, iPhone 15 at $999. Without context, maybe you pick the 13. It's good enough. But notice the trap. iPhone 14 is almost the same price as iPhone 15, but objectively worse. So your brain says, why pick 14 when 15 is only $100 more? You skip 13 entirely. You skip 14 without thinking. You end up spending $999 when you originally would have spent $799. Apple just manipulated you into spending $200 more by introducing a worse middle option. It's brilliant, and it works on millions of people every single time. Third example, movie theater popcorn. The classic example. Small for $6, medium for $8, large for $10. Small is terrible value. Only $2 cheaper than medium for significantly less popcorn. Large is barely more expensive than medium, but gives 40% more product. So your brain concludes, medium is waste, large is a bargain. You buy large. The theater's profit margin on large is 3 times higher than small. The medium isn't there to sell popcorn. It's there to make large look like a bargain. You're being manipulated by the mere presence of an inferior middle option. Fourth example, gym memberships. Basic at $20. How to protect yourself. So, how you fight back against something so deeply embedded in how your brain works? The first and most important defense is awareness. Just knowing the decoy effect exists reduces its power by roughly 30%. You can't unsee it once you see it. You become immune to the ones you recognize. But here are 5 concrete strategies that actually work. Strategy 1. Eliminate the decoy. Ask yourself this question before every significant purchase. If that third option disappeared, which would I choose? This simple question forces your brain back into absolute comparison mode. You force yourself to think about your actual needs, not relative comparison. For the popcorn example, ask, if medium didn't exist, would I pick small or large? Probably large. So medium is the decoy pushing you toward large. You can make an informed decision to accept that or reject it. Strategy 2. Establish your budget before you choose. Anchoring is powerful, but you can anchor yourself. Decide your limit before you see any prices. Write it down. Commit to it. Don't let the market anchor you. You anchor yourself. Strategy 3. Compare only two options. When there are more than two choices, your brain gets overwhelmed and starts using shortcuts. Biases activate. If you're choosing between products, eliminate the weaker options first, then compare only the top two. Don't let your brain default to easy shortcuts. Force it to do the work. Strategy 4. Take time. Impulse decisions trigger biases. Emotional decisions trigger biases. Quick decisions trigger biases. Your rational brain needs time to think. Sleep on it. If you're still interested tomorrow, you weren't just emotionally manipulated. If you forgot about it or reconsider the future and your mind. As decoys evolve and companies get more sophisticated, there's a broader conversation we need to have: cognitive liberty. Cognitive liberty is the right to think freely without systematic manipulation. It sounds abstract, but it's becoming increasingly concrete. Your brain is a target now. Companies are learning to hack your thinking patterns. Governments are learning to manipulate opinion through algorithmic architecture. And most people have no idea it's happening. In response, some countries are starting to regulate what's called dark patterns, interface designs that use psychological biases to manipulate behavior. California passed regulations against deceptive interface design. The European Union is moving toward regulations against manipulative design patterns. But here's the reality: regulations move slowly. Technology moves fast. We're in a race between awareness and exploitation. What's fascinating about the decoy effect is that it reveals something deeper about human nature. It shows that we're not the rational calculators that traditional economics assumed we were. We're comparison machines. We're social creatures. We're vulnerable to framing effects. We make decisions based on relative positioning, not absolute criteria. And that's okay.